and the future of America. Be as generous with us as we've been with you. Click on the donate banner at AmericanFreedomRadio.com or volunteer by emailing AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Vaccines, psychotropic drugs, and artillery batteries not included.
No rules, no rules, no taboo topics, no taboo topics, no fear of doom, no fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio, American Freedom Radio.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by emailrevealer.com. Go to emailrevealer.com. You can catch your spouse cheating online. You send us their email address, and we can trace it back to online dating websites and catch them cheating. You can also get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator, at emailrevealer.com, or you can get it at amazon.com. Okay, very, very excited today. We got Freeway Ricky Ross, my man. We got Freeway Ricky Ross. This is a guest I've been trying to get for about a year now. He's the author of the book, The Untold, Freeway Ricky Ross, The Untold Autobiography, that was written with Kathy Scott, who's been a frequent guest on the show. So, Mr. Ross, are you there?
I'm here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, man.
I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So tell us about yourself. Before we get into the whole history of Rick Ross, tell us about, what's Rick Ross today? Your grandfather? You're married? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm a grandfather. I got 8 kids and all. Just a normal, simple guy. Did 20 years and 2 months in prison. Been out about 7.5, going on 8 years. Just enjoying life, man, enjoy life. That's it. Love everybody and just trying to make the best of it, pushing this book and a couple other ventures that I'm working on.
Yeah, you also do like speaking engagements, right?
I do. I go around the country and not only do I speak on my case and my past life as a drug dealer, but I also speak on my mindset, my psychological thinking of how I was able to take $125 and turn into $3 million a day. Now I look back at my life to do that. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I take my hat off to you, man.
And even though I don't feel that I'm brilliant, but business-wise, it's a feat. I mean, even though it was illegal drugs, but if you take the drugs out of it, it's something that, not many people have done.
No, it's a huge accomplishment, even though it's illegal. Okay, let's face it, and it's wrong. Society thinks it's wrong, but it's a huge accomplishment, especially when you consider when you're doing illegal crime, and if your business is illegal, there's all those extra, because you're still running a business, but there's all that extra stuff you got to do.
No doubt.
Yeah, like you can't put an ad in the paper and say I need some guys, right? You can't put an ad in the paper to hire people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's strictly word of mouth marketing, and the people that you market to, you have to be able to trust them.
Right.
Because if not, they could be your informant.
Now, what about, are you in business today? What do you do to make a living now?
I got my T-shirts. I do my speaking engagements. Just pedaling around the city. I do a little acting. I do a lot of guest appearances at parties. A lot of people, that they want the drug kingpin to come out to their party and take pictures and hug on people and stuff like that there. So I do that as well.
Okay, that's great work if you can get it, man.
I'm struggling like everybody else, though.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so let's get into the story now. How did you, before you got into the whole crack business and stuff like that, what was your childhood like growing up?
Well, before I started selling crack, I wanted to be a tennis player. You know, my dream was to go to Wimbledon and become a great tennis player. But it got derailed on the fact that I never learned to read or write. So that was impossible. I couldn't go to college, and I found myself kind of in a no man's land. You know, looking for the next thing to do. And what came up was drugs.
Yeah. Now, how'd you get through school without knowing how to read or write?
You know, I was a good kid. You know, I didn't really cause trouble in school. You know, I wasn't one of the kids beating up everybody in class. The teachers liked me, you know, because I didn't make noise in there. I would just come to class, go in the back of the room, put my head on my desk, and go to sleep.
Right. And what about your family, like your mom and stuff like that? Did they know you couldn't read?
My mom, when I was younger, she knew I was struggling. You know, it really started with my ABCs. You know, I used to struggle with my ABCs, and nobody never taught me how to sound them out. So what happened, you know, if you can't sound your words out and you don't pronounce words properly, you can't spell them. So that wound up being my problem, is that nobody ever taught me how to sound them out and how to spell them correctly. So it was when I was in high school that it really started affecting me. It should have affected me during my whole school time, you know, but I guess, you know, my personality allowed me to get around a lot of the things that teachers should have caught.
Yeah, there's like that little...
You know, I believe the teachers felt that holding me back in school probably would have hurt me.
Right.
And it probably would have, what is the word called, self-esteem wise. You know, I probably would have, you know, here you are, you're 10 years old and you're in the first grade. You know, it could have been like a bad situation for me. Let me say that. I would have been embarrassed.
Right. It's a shame because there's that window, you know, like in kindergarten to like first, second, third grade where it's easy to learn to read, you know? But then if you don't catch that window, then it's like a mystery to you. It's just like something...
Like right now, you know, my son is 5 years old and he can read anything. He's been reading since he was 2.
Yeah.
But you took the time out. You know, I got him hooked on phonics. My baby can read. We read to him and so forth. So as a matter of fact, my daughter, I got a 4-year-old daughter. She's reading as well.
How old are you now?
I ain't going to tell my age. I'm 56 years old.
Okay, 56 or 53?
56.
56. Okay, I'm 54. Just turned 54 in September. And you got a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old, man. God bless you. How old is your wife, man? How old?
32.
32.
I like women, man. I like young women.
Yeah, you got the life, man. You got the life. No, you really do. Now, what about, did you have brothers and sisters?
She started with me when I was in prison. And she was writing me financial advice, you know, saying that she was in the military and she made decent money, but she never could figure out where her money was going. So I just started off helping her financially, and you know, next thing I know, she was coming to visit me, and we just built up a friendship, you know, and now we're really good friends, and it's just great.
So then when she started writing to you in prison, she had to be like 18, 20 years old.
No, she was 46.
Okay. And now back to the learning how to read thing, though. Did you have brothers and sisters? Did they know you couldn't read?
Yeah. My older brother, he struggles with reading as well.
Okay.
But yeah, they knew that I had a reading problem.
Okay, now you said you started all this. You got your hands on $125 to start your drug business. How'd you get a hold of that first money?
I stole a car.
I know it. Yeah, I know it. Yeah, it's always, you know. But then you took the cash and you put it to work.
How did you know that?
because I've interviewed a lot of people that are in the business. I just had the guy, I forget his name, but the hippie mafia guy, Richard Stratton. Yeah, Richard Stratton. I had him on. I've interviewed a lot of people in the drug business, smugglers and stuff like that. I was with the Yippies in New York City.
How we get started.
Yeah, I grew up in the South.
How we get started.
Yeah. So now, okay. So you start off, got the $125, and then what did you knew the guy to buy it from, right?
No, I didn't. I had a friend who had showed it to me before, and the only person I knew to get it from was him. So I went to him, and you know, I started off getting robbed by him, basically.
Yeah.
And then eventually, you know, I got my own connection.
Okay, how old were you when you started with the 125?
19 years old.
19 years old. Okay, that's kind of late. Okay, 19 years old. And you get your
It
hands...
was late for the day, but not when I started. When I started, it was very, very few kids involved with cocaine. I mean, 19-year-olds. And let me tell you this here, just so you know, for the record, a lot of people don't know how much cocaine used to cost in the 80s.
Yeah.
But when I started selling cocaine, a gram of cocaine was worth about $350. That lets you know how the war on drugs been doing, right?
Right.
Right now, you can get a gram of cocaine for about $25.
Okay, what year was that it was costing $300 out in L.A.?
79.
79? Yeah, you're right. You're right. 79 in New York City, it was about $250, $300 for a gram of coke. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So now, all right. So then, okay, you get your hands on it, and then what did you do? Stand on the corner?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's exactly what I did. I'd already, before I got my first pack, I'd already been helping my friend who I told you, who showed it to me, introduced me to it. So I'd already kind of built up a clientele, but I didn't have a place to go and sell it, you know, and I really didn't want people coming to my mom's house because I was still living in my mom's garage. So, yeah, I would just go and stand out on the block and pedal.
Okay, now what about the guys, though, that were selling on that corner before you showed up there? Were they just welcoming you with open arms?
They wasn't selling cocaine. They were selling PCP.
Oh, PCP. Oh, wow. Boy, they must have been a lot of fun. Okay. All right, so they're selling... They
didn't mind. They didn't mind me coming out selling cocaine. And a matter of fact, those were some of my first customers.
Okay.
I ran into one of those guys a couple of days ago. He had just got out of prison. And I told him that they were the guys that had kept me in business. Okay.
How's he doing? If he just got out of prison,
who kept me in business when we were standing on the block, because had they not sold PCP, and then, you know, when they have a good day, they would go and buy them a rock to smoke.
Okay, gotcha. Because I was wondering, yeah, like how many guys, if they're showing up to buy a little bit of angel dust, how many guys showing up to buy would have $300 to buy a gram of coke?
Well, they would. They were making a lot of money selling angel dust.
Yeah, those guys. But like strangers pulling up wouldn't buy $300 worth of coke from you, right?
Oh no! It took a while before. And then you got to look at it like this here. The PCP guys were like the big shots in the neighborhood.
Right.
Right. So everybody in the neighborhood want to do what they're doing because they got all the money.
Gotcha.
So when they smoking coke, then everybody else wants to smoke coke as well, but they can't afford it.
So now, when you started off, it was coke. It wasn't crack yet, right? Not in '79, that's for sure.
Well, crack and coke is the same thing. That's some BS that the government came up with. Oh, well, this is crack and this is coke. Right. They're both the same. If you take cocaine and you mix it with baking soda and water, it turns into what the government calls crack.
Right, but at the time, you were selling cocaine, powdered coke, right?
In the beginning, I sold some powdered coke, but those guys were taking it, cooking it up.
Oh, really? They knew how to do that already in '79?
Yeah.
Because the only people I had heard about doing it back at cooking it up was like people like Richard Pryor and stuff like that. You would hear about him doing it, but the average person.
Well, these guys weren't average. You know, they probably were making more money than Richard Pryor was making.
Really? Okay. All right. Very good. Okay.
These were the rich guys in the community. They were driving Mercedes-Benzes, Rolls Royces, you know, the $40,000, $50,000 lowriders. You know, they were the ones having money.
Okay,
at this time.
But even though these guys were making a ton of money, right? They didn't move out of the neighborhood. Like when you started making money, did you move out?
No, I didn't. They did move out the neighborhood.
They did.
Yeah, they did.
So now, how did your business start to expand? This little coke business.
Well, you know, I started right there on 81st and Hoover, and 81st got so big. Basically what I did is turn it from a PCC spot to a cocaine spot, and I went from making $500 a day to $2,000 a day to $5,000 a day to $10,000 a day to $20,000 a day, and then I was too big to be on the block. So other guys who had saw me doing my thing, they wanted to come on the block, and then they started buying their cocaine from me because they didn't know nowhere else to get it. So now I got that spot rolling, and then after I saw how that did, then I would just go to other areas and duplicate what I had done already.
Gotcha. Okay. So now you're making good money. You're making $10,000 a day, like you said. What are you doing with your money? It's just sitting around in cash?
Buying more coke.
Buying more coke. That makes sense. And putting more coke out all your money's out on the street.
Yep. All my money's on the street.
What about now at this stage of your life? Any problems with like stick-ups? People trying to stick you up?
I didn't hear you.
At this stage of your life in your career with the coke, any problems with stick-ups? People trying to rob you?
Yeah. I didn't. I almost got kidnapped before.
Okay, so there was a kidnapping, but any stick-ups, like when you're out there on the corner?
No, I never been stuck up.
Okay, and
it was attempted kidnapping.
Attempted kidnapping. Okay, can you want to tell that story? What happened with that?
With the attempted kidnapping?
Yeah.
The guy put a gun in my head. He demanded me to get in my car. He had a girl with him. He told her to get in the car. When he turned his head to, because he had the gun really too close to my head, the barrel was touching my head.
Right.
And when he told her to get in the car, I was able to grab his hand and twist the gun out of his hand. And me and him commenced the fighting. The girl picked up the gun and started shooting at both of us, and I took off running.
Okay, that was a close one. Okay. Now, so now, at this time, are you still living at your mother's house?
I was still living at my mom's house.
How long were you living at your mom's house selling this much coke? Like, to what age?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we were talking about you were about 19 years old at this age when you got started. So how old were you still living at your mom's house when you're making this much freaking money?
When my mom put me out the house, I had $100,000 saved up.
Okay. And how old were you?
I was probably early 20s.
Okay, early 20s. You were 21 years old. But okay, so now,
yeah.
Were you investing any of this money yet, or not yet?
Not yet. No, everything I had at that time went back into the cocaine business.
Gotcha. Okay, so then when did you get in touch with how much time passed before you got in touch with these Contra guys, these Nicaraguan Contras?
It was funny how we met. I think I had already met them then. The first one. The first ones I met through a teacher named Mr. Fisher.
Okay.
And he introduced me to the first one named Ivan. And from there, I just kept meeting, one after another. Once they know that you had that kind of money, they all try to get in contact. Everybody want a piece of the pie.
So now, did you know that these guys were involved in rebel fighting in Nicaragua? Did you know anything about this?
I did.
No idea.
I'm illiterate. Had never read a book, never read the newspaper. I had never watched the news. So I'm totally a novice to all of these things.
So you had no clue. So, but did you realize that they had any kind of connections, like the CIA or anything like that?
None.
Okay.
Only thing I knew and cared about at that time was that they had good coke at a great price.
Yeah, I could imagine. They probably had the best prices in the world, right?
They did.
Now, did you think that? What about the cops? Did you have any problems with the cops?
What did you say now?
The cops. Did you have any problems with the cops, or were you paying off the cops? What was going on with that?
The cops. We didn't have no problems with the cops until around 85, I think.
And then
pretty smooth sailing. Nobody expected cocaine to be in South Central at that time.
Yeah, but they must have known there was these drug operations going on all these corners, and there was one guy in charge of it, right?
I don't know. I mean, I was really shocked when I found out that they had the Freeway Brick task force, because I stayed pretty low key. I didn't have the fancy cars. The problem was that everybody knew my name. Nobody knew what I looked like, but they knew my name.
They knew your first and last name, or just Freeway?
Just Freeway Brick.
Freeway Rick. Okay. All right. Now, when did you start get on the radar of the cops? Did they come and approach you? They wanted a payoff, or they started busting you guys? What happened?
Well, the first time that they raided the house, they left a card. It was one of my girlfriends. They planted drugs on her. And they left a card and told her to tell me to contact them.
By name? They knew your name?
Yeah, they knew who I was at that.
Okay, and then what'd you do? You went to a lawyer?
Yep, I took the card to my lawyer, so my lawyer would have happened.
Okay, now, by that time, did you already have lawyers already to go when you had accountants and stuff?
Yeah, I had lawyers from previous cases and from other people. My workers had been getting busted and stuff like that. So I had lawyers already on deck.
So before that, you had it set up that if one of your guys got busted, they could call you up and you would get them a lawyer, you get them a bail bondsman, and get them out so that they wouldn't rat on you.
Oh, yeah, I would bail them out as soon as they got booked.
Yeah. You don't see that much these days, do you?
Well, I'm not in the business, so I don't really know. They should. I mean, if you leave a guy in jail, then it leaves it open for him to testify against you.
Right. Yeah, it just seems the smart thing to do. Now, so
yeah, absolutely.
Did you start investing your money? When did you start investing all this money?
After a while, I started having piles of money, and I started thinking about what was I going to do to get out the business.
So then, what did you start doing with the money?
The first thing I bought was a piece of property to build a motel.
Okay. So you bought land.
And I went from there to junk, huh?
You bought land, like undeveloped land?
Right.
And how'd you do that, with cash?
To build a motel.
Right, to build a motel. But you did that with cash? Or you got into a check somehow?
Yeah, I did it with cash. I did it with cash.
Oh, then what was that like? The guy selling the property, what did he say when you show up with all this cash?
Oh, he was glad to take cash.
Okay.
Because he didn't have to pay taxes on the money.
So he didn't bother to ask you where the cash came from?
No, he didn't care.
Okay, back in those days, you could do a lot. Yeah.
He wasn't putting it on paper.
Okay, yeah. In those days, you could do a lot more in cash than you could today. That's for sure.
I'm sure you can still do it today in cash.
You think so?
Yeah. Plenty of people out here would take cash for something and then tell you that they paid less for it than what they really paid.
Yeah. But you got to fill out all those forms now when you take the cash out of the bank and stuff, and when you're putting deposit in cash. When did you start running into problems like that, like making deposits, and how did you resolve the problem?
I never used the bank.
You never used the bank all that time?
No, I didn't.
You never had even a basic checking account or a savings account?
I did have a basic one from one my mom had opened when I was a kid.
Oh, my God. You're telling me that when you were making like $3 million a day, even at that point, you didn't have a checking account? You had just your little checking account that your mom set up for you?
Yep.
That's unbelievable, man. Now, when you're dealing with these...
I had really big safes to keep money in, and safes spread out around the city.
Wow, man. And doesn't it kill you today, man, if you think back, boy, if I just had like 10% of that in cash back, like you could be living like a king today. Doesn't that drive you crazy?
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. But you know what? I got something better than that. I got my mind.
Right.
Because my mind made that money. And I realized that. And I realized if I can do it once, I can do it again.
Very true. Okay. Now, what about this, though? Are there still guys out there that owe you money that you kind of think, oh, man, maybe if I could just find this guy and he'll pay me back?
No, I'm not really looking for anybody that owe me. It's a lot of people that owe me, but, that's water under the bridge. And I'm a forward-thinking person. I'm looking at tomorrow and not, not what happened last year.
Right.
Because that's history. You can't change history.
Okay, so now back to these Iran-Contra guys. When did you ever realize that these guys were involved, not Iran-Contra, but these Nicaraguan Contras? When did you start getting a hint that maybe these guys were hooked up with the CIA and that kind of stuff?
When I was in jail, and I heard from Gary Webb.
Get out of here. So you're trying to tell me that all the time you were dealing with these guys, you had no idea that these were protected guys, protected CIA guys dealing this coke?
Not a clue.
Oh, my God. I can't believe this. So, no, but don't you think maybe that's why you weren't getting so much police harassment, because you were protected through this connection?
Well, once you know that, then you can say that. But in hindsight, but the day that it was taking place, I had no clue.
Wow, you just thought that everything was easy. It was just easy to do it.
No, I didn't think it was easy. There's consequences that go with it. But I was willing to take those chances, and I thought that I was making steps to avoid anything from happening.
Okay, what kind of steps were you taking?
Just, precaution, moving my houses every couple months, wherever I was dealing from, I would move that location. I stopped selling small pieces and would only sell, to big guys. I only dealt with guys I knew, all my life, stuff like that, yeah.
And I read, too, that you had scramblers and stuff like that, telephone scramblers? Scanners. Oh, so you had police scanners, but you didn't have telephone scramblers?
No,
Really? So then what about, did you have guys come in and sweep for bugs and telephone surveillance and stuff?
Nah.
Really? Okay. I actually used to do that.
That's all TV stuff.
No. We used to do it back in Brooklyn, back in 1980, 1981, 92. When I was working as a PI in Brooklyn, that was one of the big things we did, counter surveillance. We would go and sweep for bugs and all the mafia guys.
In my situation, though, the cops couldn't see me.
Right.
I was almost invisible to the cops, so there was no way that they could put bugs in my house and stuff like that, because they didn't know where I was or who I was. They only had the name, but they couldn't put a face in a body with the name.
Gotcha. Now, what about
as soon as they saw me, they had me, because they was planting the drugs.
Yeah. That's very common too. They know a guy's doing it, and then when they kick his door in, because there was a story on Staten Island where they kicked this guy's door in and they threw the coke right in the lobby of his house. They just threw it right on the floor. You're under arrest. So that kind of stuff happens. Yeah, that happens way more than people realize. Now, this time when they raided one of your locations and they gave your girlfriend the card, how did that case go? You contact your lawyer, then what happens?
She wound up winning the case. They took her to jail. They gave her a high bail, I think $100,000 or something like that, which is high during those times for coke. I bailed her right out. Got the lawyer, Alan Finster, represented her, and eventually he got the case dismissed.
On a bad search? How they get it dismissed?
Bad search warrant. You know, those guys were forging judges' names on the search warrant.
Get the hell out of here! Wow. Well, nowadays this whole Fourth Amendment defense is pretty much out the window. These lawyers don't even try that anymore to even attack the search warrant, or they don't even attempt that. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, it's pretty hard right now to attack the search warrants, but it's still a valid issue if you get them right.
Yeah, I got you.
But it's so hard to get around them now, because the cops lie. They'll go into the judge and get a search warrant. Judges write search warrants. Like they're giving out snow cones at the corner store.
Yeah,
so. But back in the days, judges really didn't get search warrants like that. You really have to have some evidence. In order to get a search warrant, you'd have to send an informant in, and the informant had to make a buy, and you'd have to have something that we know that they're dealing drugs here. But now, we even heard them, raiding the wrong places. They thought it was one thing going on, and then it was something totally different going on.
Hey, what do you? A little bit off topic, but what do you think about? Because now we're the same age now, right? We grew up around the same time. When you see all these police shootings of these unarmed people these days, how do you feel when you see that? You get nervous?
I do. Being a black man, as a matter of fact, I was pulled over last week by an unmarked car, Metro. They call them Metro in L.A. The gang unit.
Right.
Me and one of my younger nephews were riding in a car that young black guys drive. It was a Buick Park Avenue. And they pulled us over, and when they did, first thing I was saying, I hope they don't shoot. So, I had my nephew to stick both of his hands out the window when I stuck both of my hands out the window before the cops ever got out their car. And everything went good. They wound up searching the car for guns and let us go.
Now, did they know who you were?
They never ran my name.
Get out of here. I was going to say, did you give them your autograph, You know?
I have them stop me and they figure out who I am,
Yeah.
Matter of fact, a couple months back, I was stopped up in Santa Rosa, and one of the cops recognized me and treated me pretty nice.
Yeah, I know. I read that story. As a matter of fact, I was trying to book you around that time. And then I read it in the paper. They got you in Santa Rosa. So I didn't want to bother you. I said, well, he's not going to want to talk now. But everything turned out pretty good in that case. But I didn't want to bother you, But the thing is, everything...
No, we talked in. I wouldn't have had a problem with it. I would have told you everything you wanted to know.
I just figured. But, I don't want to bother a guy who's got a problem. But the thing is that worked out good for you, right? That's all over?
Well, they didn't give me my $100,000 back yet.
Get out of here. So, but you filed a motion to get that back, right?
I did file a motion to get it back.
Okay, and how's that look?
I don't know. They fight hard for that money. They offered to give me $50,000 back, if I allowed them to keep $50,000. And I said, well, I don't think that's fair. You didn't help me earn any of this.
Yeah, right. Okay, just so the audience understands, what happened was he was driving through Sonoma County, wasn't it, Santa Rosa?
Yep.
Right, and he got pulled over, and they found some cash on him, so they seized the cash just because, this must be illegal cash because this guy has cash on him. Let's take it. And then they start negotiating with you. Okay, we'll give you back half the cash. They got to prove you got that cash in a bad way, man. They can't just take your cash and say, we'll give you... Well,
no doubt.
What if I walk...
says that they have to catch you in the commission of a crime.
Yeah.
Take it.
What if I walk into a bank, I steal $1 million, I say, well, I'll give you back half. You know what I'm saying? Abby Hoffman.
I'm going through that still.
Yeah, Abby Hoffman. When Abby Hoffman...
For a while, they threatened, they charged me, they said it was going to charge, they never charged me though, but they said, oh, we were going to charge you with a drug crime. And then, they put that article in the paper.
Yeah.
Where everybody thought that I was back into the coke business.
Actually, I got the impression it was marijuana. I don't know why I got that impression, but I could maybe because it was Sonoma County, because you can drive around up there and you could smell them growing pot up there.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah. There's a lot of marijuana up there, and everyone seems to be.
If you would have told me, I would have thought it was marijuana as well.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. Well, that's practically legal, so they can't bother you for that. Okay. Now, when you had that case, though, because you said your girlfriend, she got off, but they said they gave a card and they wanted you to contact them. Did you get any problems with that case?
No, they didn't catch me. They didn't catch me until about 2 years after the first raid.
Okay, so you never turned yourself in with your lawyer. You just gave it to your lawyer, and did he negotiate for you?
They didn't put a warrant out for my arrest on that case.
They didn't put a warrant?
No, they just arrested my girl.
Oh, they arrested your girl, but they wanted to talk to you, and your lawyer called them up and said, well, we're not talking to you?
Yeah.
Okay. And then
he told them, some crazy stuff. Oh, F you, you're never going to catch Greg. Too smart for you.
Really? But there was no warrant, so you could pretty much say whatever you want.
Yeah, he could, but, I'd rather for him to say, hey, leave Rick along. He's a good guy.
Yeah. So,
you're going to piss those guys off. Oh, you're never going to catch him. He's smarter than you.
So then what happens then? What happens with the big case? How did they finally get you with the big bust?
Well, the one with Danilo called me, and, I just gotten out of prison. And he called me and was saying that he wanted to help me and that he needed some help move some coke. So he had like 700 keys, and he needed somebody to help him. And if I would help him, and this went on for about 6 months. And to finally, I introduced him to one of my what we call little homies, who had became a big homie in the game. And when I introduced him, he had the money, and the feds come from everywhere.
Who is Danilo? I'm not sure who Danilo is.
Well, Danilo was my main supplier.
He was one of the Nicaraguans?
Right, he was a Contra. He was in charge of raising money for the Contras for California. California was his area.
Okay, now when the cops came, what was it? DEA, FBI? Who came?
It was DEA.
Now, did they arrest Danilo too?
No. Danilo had turned into an informant.
Oh, by that time, Danilo. Well, now what made him turn into an informant?
He had gotten busted earlier. I think they said they caught him with like 10,000 keys, and he had to work his time off in order not to do 4 life sentences.
So even though he was working for the CIA, basically, that he still got busted, and he couldn't get out of that?
Well, from what I understand, he did get out of it.
Okay. Well, he got out of it by ratting, yeah.
Yeah, they had posted, deactivated their thing. You know, they wasn't supposed to be selling drugs anymore.
Oh, okay.
But basically, he did get out. He should have never got out of prison. I mean, you don't let a guy like Danilo out of prison. You catch somebody with 10,000 keys. I mean, you know, when the prosecutor arrested him, he told him that he would have to bring the sun and the moon.
Yeah, that's true. Because normally, if you get busted, with like 1,000 keys, they want 3 times as much. They want you to make a deal for 3 times as much as you got caught with. Correct?
Right. They don't let him go down the chain and get the guy a washed-up drug dealer like I was.
Right.
You know, I'd already been to prison. The government had ran a number on me, and I was just out. I'd only been out 6 months before I was arrested again.
How much time did you do in prison that first time?
5.5 years.
5.5 years. Okay, and what year was that? That's a while ago, right?
It started in 88.
Okay, 88, you got 5 years. So now you're talking about 93 around then. This guy Danilo contacts you back, says he got 700 keys. Now, even though you had just gotten out, you didn't think, oh boy, man, I better stay away from this and not get in trouble again?
You know, I didn't think that I would do it. You know, I didn't think that I would get back into the drug business.
Right.
So I felt harmless in talking to him. And quite frankly, I really didn't have the connections anymore. Because I stopped talking to everybody when I went to prison. I cut off all my ties.
Right.
But no, you know, I thought Danilo was a friend, somebody I could trust, and, you know, and somebody I had love and admiration for.
How do you feel about him today?
Oh, I don't have any feelings for him. Not at all.
Okay.
Not one way or the other.
So now, did this bus for the
I wouldn't care if he fell out of the window of an airplane.
Okay. And he's walking around.
And if he lives forever, I still don't care.
And he's walking around free today?
He is. He did, I think they say he did 28 months in prison. You know, when they got black guys for 2 ounces of crack doing 25 and 30 years.
Yeah, wow. And that's because he made a deal to rat everybody out, or because of his CIA connections, you think?
Well, the only person that we could prove that he ratted on was me.
Really?
So we believe that it was a cover-up, you know, to say, hey, you know, he cooperated, so this is why we cut the time, not because he was a CIA operative.
Okay, so now let me ask you this. Now you got this big case. This is a huge case. Now, they were charging you with possession of 700 or intent to conspiracy. To, what was the charges?
Conspiracy for 100 keys.
Conspiracy for 100 keys. Okay, now you're not sitting on a ton of cash to get out of this one, but you had enough money to get a good lawyer.
What it was is I had sued the police department for all the corrupt stuff they had done, and I just won $60,000.
Okay.
I gave that $60,000 to my lawyer.
Okay, 60, and that was enough to get you through that case. But even still, you got convicted. You went to trial.
Yeah, I went to trial.
And what was the theory of your defense?
Entrapment.
Entrapment. And that's a pretty good theory in this case because it was obviously entrapment. But you had a jury.
Yeah, I had a jury.
Not a friendly jury.
No, wasn't a jury of my peers for sure.
Okay.
My lawyer told me had I stayed in L.A., and caught this case, it would have been a slam dunk case. But by me going to San Diego, it changed the dynamic of the whole case.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, they lured us. They lured us to San Diego.
Oh, see, so they were planning this in advance. They had the whole idea in their head. They were thinking ahead to the jury when they were getting you, huh?
Absolutely. They knew which jury they was going to pick in the whole 9 yards.
Now, let me ask you this:
knew who the judge was going to be.
Really?
Well, it's funny how this stuff works. If you were an informant, if you were a defendant and you get prosecuted by a certain guy, then you go out and you get cases and you bring it to that same prosecutor. And, I don't know how that should work. I think, if it's a case, then the case should go in a pool and whoever picks the case out should get it. But it doesn't, this case, it doesn't work like that. And that's one of the things that I'm glad that Obama has been doing, has been pardoning guys who have been caught up under this corrupt sentencing guidelines thing. He's pardoned a couple hundred. I don't think he's pardoned enough. But the guys have really been serving too much time for the crime.
I want to ask you what happened to you in prison, but before we get to that, back when you were out in the street, around this period of time, there was a lot of the Crips and the Bloods and stuff like that, and they were doing a lot of stuff too. Did you have any problems with them, or did you have deals with them?
No, I didn't have any problems with them. We grew up together.
Okay, so even though you were never a member of either of these gangs, you had no problems?
None.
Okay, because everyone just respected you.
Still to this day, I don't have a problem with the Crips and the Bloods.
Okay. And pretty much, do you think it was everyone respected you because you had a good product and you gave everybody a fair deal and you were an honest guy? And was that pretty much it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everybody likes somebody who looks out for them.
Right. Okay. So now,
who's not gobbling everything up for themselves.
Right. Now you got the big case. How much time did you get on that big case? Life, right?
I had got life without the possibility of parole.
Okay, man. So now, when you hear that, the verdict, did you still have hope that we're going to appeal the case, or were you you're just ready to give up?
Well, there's days that you feel that you may never get out, but I always kept hope. Because had I not kept hope, I wouldn't have went to the law library and studied. I would have just sit in the dorm and watch TV and play games.
People are asking in the chat room because this guy Danilo, he was with the Nicaraguan Contras, and this was an operation that was run by Reagan and Ollie North and these guys, right? But you had no contact with people like Ollie North, right?
None.
Yeah, right. And you didn't even know these Ollie North and Reagan existed at that time, or had anything connection?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't.
So then, but now, later on, now you're sitting in prison. Now, again, in prison. They say that people that are successful on the outside, they get into prison, they're successful on the inside too. Was that your experience?
Say that again?
They say that people that are successful on the outside, you have a successful relationships with people, a successful business, you get thrown in prison, they're usually successful in prison as well. They get along well in prison.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter where I go, I'm going to still be Rick Ross. No matter what business I go into, I'm going to be successful. And I was successful in prison. I taught myself to read and write in prison. Before I left prison, I read over 300 books. Like I told you, I met my wife while I was in prison.
Right. I remember you telling me that, yeah. That's probably the best thing that happened to you, right? Now, that's the kind of thing that gives you hope, right?
And my son, I plan on having him while I was in prison. Did you ever read that article that Jesse Katz did on me in LA Magazine?
No, I did not. What does it say?
You should read that article. He came down there and he was talking about how I was dreaming. I was talking about putting on fights and acting and doing a documentary and putting a book out. And, my documentary got nominated for an Emmy Award, too, a couple weeks ago. I didn't win, though. But I'm probably one of the first drug dealers to be nominated. But, yeah, I was talking about all these different things that I was going to be doing, and lo and behold, I'm out, and Floyd Mayweather picked me up from the halfway house, right?
I did not know that. No, he's a local Vegas guy here. He's very popular here in town.
Absolutely. He picked me up from the halfway house. Matter of fact, you can see the video on YouTube with me and Floyd. He picked me up in a brand new Maybach and a brand new Rolls-Royce Hammerhead, I think was the name of it. My book is out. You know, I'm working on a movie right now. I'm also working on a TV series. So, you know, all the things that I talked about in prison are coming to fruition.
How'd you become friends with Floyd Mayweather?
A guy in the halfway house introduced it.
Oh, okay. So you didn't know him while you were out there doing stuff?
I didn't. Okay.
Now, you say you learned how to read while you were in prison. I guess you're sitting there, you had nothing to do, right? So you figured, let's learn how to read?
Absolutely.
And what's the first things you started trying to read?
My indictment. Yeah, the first thing I wanted to read was my indictment.
So then, could you understand that? Because a lot of these motions and stuff like that, and these affidavits, and they kind of...
It was hard. It was hard, but after a couple of weeks, you know, I was reading it, and then I went from there to the newspaper, and then from the newspaper to law book. And, you know, what I didn't really understand about myself is that I was a highly intelligent person.
That you were highly intelligent?
Absolutely.
But the thing is, you had to realize that you were a highly intelligent person way before that, because you didn't realize when you were so successful at your business and rising.
I thought anybody could sell, and I still feel like that. I feel like that anybody can go out and sell cocaine and marijuana and become a multimillionaire. You know, I mean, I could show anybody how to do it. Matter of fact, when I wrote my book, I kind of laid it out in my book, how the steps that I took, and they're really elementary steps.
Okay. And that's the book, Freeway, Rick Ross, The Untold Autobiography. How'd you get in touch with Kathy Scott? You found her or she found you?
No, one of my lawyers found her. I wanted to self-publish my book. You know, I met some of the biggest guys in Hollywood like 2 weeks out of prison. You know, I met Ori Emanuel, Michael Linton, Jeff Bird, and Spencer Boomer, who had only been out of prison for 1 week. And, you know, I was told that if I didn't do my movie, my documentary, my book with one of them, that it would never come to light. So when I did my book, I wanted to do my book to look, because I self-published. My book is self-published. So when they buy the book, they're helping me. They're not helping Sony or Warner Brothers or any of those other guys. And it's printed in America, you know, so Americans are making money off of it. So I wanted it to look as if one of those guys did it. I didn't want it to look cheap and cheesy. So my attorney turned to Kathy Scott, and she helped us get through the process.
So you have in the book printed here in America. You don't have it printed down in Nicaragua or Colombia, then shipped up here in big boxes?
No, man. we got to start giving our own some work, even if it costs us a little more money.
Yeah, I know. I was kidding you. Now, you definitely make more money when you self-publish because you get to keep all the money. You don't have to go through a publisher that's going to keep all the money. And as long as you got
all the money.
Yeah. As long as you got a big name, you can get the press. You know, you'll sell the books yourself. You don't need a publisher.
No, I don't. I go out and I sell my books on the street and also over the internet.
Gotcha. And what's your website? FreewayRickyRoss.com, right?
Yep, that's it. Y'all go there and check me out.
FreewayRickyRoss.com. The book is Freeway Rick Ross, The Untold Autobiography, and the co-author contributor is Kathy Scott, one of our frequent guests. So now you sit in prison, you learn how to read. Then what happens? Does Gary Webb show up and talk to you, or do you find out about do you work on your case yourself? How do you get out?
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm working on my case myself. But during the time that we were working on the case, I had money to pay the attorney, but I didn't have money to pay an investigator.
Okay.
So me and my lawyer had already been talking about investigator. You need an investigator. We need to know more about these guys. But the government was sandbagging us. You know, they didn't give us any of Danilo's background, any of his. Because, you know, I knew him, but I didn't really know the guy. You know, I'm like, I haven't, you know, been through his history and so forth, you know. So I didn't really know anything about him. Well, one day, Alan tells me that this reporter called him and wants to talk to me. And Alan didn't really want me to talk to the guy. But I was like, I ain't got nothing to lose. I'm getting a life sentence. Tell the guy to come talk to me. So Gary came down. We spoke. he told me that he was an investigative reporter, and I was like, this is exactly what I need, an investigator. Let's let this guy spend the newspaper's money, investigate the story, and then we got all the information that we need. So I was glad when I found out that Gary wanted to work on the case. And me and Alan had agreed that we would use him as our investigator because we didn't have the money to hire an investigator. But the only thing, Gary, he didn't share any information with us. You know, he kept everything to himself and asked a lot of questions and, you know, and talked to me, but he didn't give me anything.
So were you able to use anything to help you get out that Gary was doing?
Well, eventually what happened is when we went to trial, my lawyer, when he cross-examined the informant, Gary sat in the front row, and Gary gave him questions to ask the informant because Gary never got to talk to Danilo. So the only way that Gary could question Danilo was through my attorney. If you read the transcripts of the case, the judge noticed that my lawyer is conversating back and forth with the reporter, and she called it out on record. You know, what are you doing? Why are you and the reporter conversating so much in the courtroom?
Yeah, that's true. Because even if you're a licensed private investigator, you know, you got to be approved by the judge and stuff to be working on the case. Now, but when you were out there doing stuff, you didn't have PIs helping you out, like running plates for you and tracing back unlisted phone numbers, locating people for you? You didn't have that?
No, well, you know, the first time I had a private investigator was when the crooked cops were planning drugs and stuff. I hired a private investigator for that. But other than that, I didn't.
Really? So to run your business, you didn't think you needed an investigator to, like, if someone gave you an unlisted phone number, you didn't want to check them out, find out where they were, people that owed you money, you didn't want to locate them?
Yeah, I already knew my guys. I home grew my guys. My guys were homegrown. I grew them to be the people that they became.
Okay. So Gary Webb is helping you out. Was he instrumental in getting you out of prison? Was his questions?
Well, what Gary did was he brought attention to my case, and he made the judges give me a fair ruling. I won my case on the three-strike law, that I wasn't a three-strike candidate. I should have won my case that the government sandbagged us and had information that they had gave on another case in Sacramento that they didn't give us, that Gary Webb did come up with. But what the government, what the appeals court ruled was, even if the CIA was involved with selling drugs, it still didn't excuse me for getting involved with drugs.
But it's okay for Ollie North and Ronald Reagan and all those people to get away with doing it.
Right.
What's the difference between them?
But they weren't on trial. They weren't on trial, and I was on trial.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, so the way you got out was the three strikes law. What was the theory of your defense there? That you got one of your convictions overturned, one of the earlier convictions? How did that work?
No, the three strike law was that say, for instance, if you get two cases at one time for the same thing, they overlap, then they're considered as one conviction.
Well, yeah, sure. Everybody knows that, but they got you. How did they get that in the first place? Your lawyer missed that in the first place?
Well, what they thought, my convictions come from different states. So they felt that since they were from different states, that they were separate convictions. But the key words that they missed was intervening arrest, that it has to be separate arrest. You know, you can't just come and arrest me and then say, okay, well, Texas has a warrant for your arrest, Indiana has a warrant for your arrest, Cincinnati has a warrant for your arrest, California has a warrant for your arrest, and then run all those separate. It's part of one continual criminal spree, and that's the way I argued it.
Okay. All right. We're going to be taking a break in a minute, okay? And we'll come back and we'll wrap it up kind of short. I really appreciate you giving us this time. We're with Freeway Rick Ross. Okay. The book is The Untold Autobiography, and his website is freewayrickyross.com.
Wrap up in a few minutes.
What was that?
I know I was talking to somebody else.
Okay. All right. Hey, so what am I talking to right now? You're in your house with all your kids running around and all this kind of stuff? Is that what's going on?
Oh, no. I'm in Culver City, California.
Culver City, California. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, when we come back, I'm going to ask you about Gary Webb. Like, why do you think? How do you think he died? Do you think it was a suicide? Do you think he was murdered? So we'll get into all of that when we get back in a couple of minutes. And then also, too,
Okay.
I want to ask you, too, about the lawsuit when you sued Rick Ross, the rapper. Okay.
All right.
We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome to the world's meeting place. American
It's practically narcotic.
Freedom
Oh, yes, I like very much.
Radio.
You're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
Did you know there are 3 million edible food plants on Earth, and none have the nutritional value of the hemp plant? HempUSA.org offers you hemp protein powder. It does not contain chemicals or THC. Is non-GMO and is 100% gluten-free. Hemp protein powder burns fat, builds muscle, contains 53% protein, and feeds the body the nutrients it needs. Call 888-910-4367 and see what our powder, seeds, and oil can do for you. Only at HempUSA.org. HempUSA.org introduces 3 brand new detox formulations of microplant powder. Brain Fuel for depression, bipolar disorders, and stress. Total Care, anti-cancer agent that cleans the liver and organs and increases memory. Rejuvenate, invigorates and heals the body, mind, and spirit. These products are your alternative to pharmaceuticals. Call 888-910-4367 and like us on Facebook. We ship worldwide. Only at HempUSA.org.
People are dumb. You can say what you want about this country, and I love this place. I love the freedoms we used to have. I love it. I love that. You know? I love it when it didn't take catastrophe to get us to care for one another. I love the fact that we're on camera all the time from all angles. But you know what? You can say what you want about America. And I say I love this place. I wouldn't have it any other way. Wouldn't live in any other time in history in any other place. But say what you want about America, land of the free, home of the brave. We got some dumbass people floating around this country. Yeah. And this ain't just ranting and raving. This ain't just blowing off steam. I got a little evidence to support my claim. It just seems to me that only a really low IQ population could have taken this beautiful continent, this magnificent American landscape that we inherited. Well, actually, we stole it from the Mexicans and Indians, but hey, it was nice when we stole it. It looked pretty good. It was pristine. Paradise. Have you seen it lately? Have you taken a good look at it lately? It's embarrassing. Only a nation of unenlightened half-wits could have taken this beautiful place and turned it into what it is today, a shopping mall. A big shopping mall. You know that? That's all you got. That's all you've got here, folks. Mile after mile of mall after mall. Many, many malls. Major malls and mini malls. They put the mini malls in between the major malls. And in between the mini malls, they put the mini marts. And in between the mini marts, you got the car lots, gas stations, muffler shops, laundromats, cheap hotels, fast food joints, strip clubs, and dirty bookstores. America the Beautiful. One big transcontinental commercial cesspool. And how do the people feel about all this? How do the people feel about living in a coast-to-coast shopping mall? Well, they think it's just dandy.
You're listening to AmericanFreedomRadio.com, the network who perseveres in delivering intelligent debate, constructive dialogue with true independence. The freedom to broadcast the truth is not free at all. So what is American Freedom Radio worth to you? The empowering information with fun, honest and pure integrity behind it provides an example to follow, friendships to flourish, with the moral altruism that pulls no punches. The hosts sacrifice and show remarkable discipline in their duty to deliver quality radio and service to the community with strength, wisdom, and loyalty. The founders of AFR wish to thank you personally for sharing your views and insights to make the best radio and alternative media. Now it's time for you to give something back and play a vital role in the future of America. Be as generous with us as we've been with you. Click on the donate banner at AmericanFreedomRadio.com or volunteer by emailing AmericanFreedomRadio@ymail.com. Vaccine, psychotropic drugs, and artillery batteries not included.
No rules, no rules, no taboo topics, no taboo topics, no fear of doom, no fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio, American Freedom Radio.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. And this show is brought to you by Subash Technosis, SubashTechnosis.com. If you need any kind of outsourcing, you need website design, content writing, search engine optimization, if you need press releases, data entry, contact SubashTechnosis.com or go to their Facebook page, Subash Technosis LLC. Tell them Ed Opperman sent you. You get a good deal. We're here today with Freeway Rick Ross, an iconic American legend in so many different ways. His book is The Untold Autobiography, Freeway Rick Ross, The Untold Autobiography. It was contributed by Kathy Scott, a frequent guest to the show. And his website is freewayrickyross.com. So, Rick, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Thought I lost you. Okay, I thought they came and got you again. Driving through Sonoma again. Let me ask you a question. Now, Gary Webb, okay? Now, when did you find out that Gary Webb died?
I was in Texarkana prison.
Okay.
I was working on a documentary with a guy by the name of Kevin Booth. And I think the documentary was called The Great White Hope. And I called him. He'd been burning up all my phone minutes. You know, in the Feds, you only get 300 minutes a month. So he'd been burning up my phone minutes, and he wanted me to call him back that day. We'd already spoke. And when I called him back, he said, had I heard? And I was like, heard what? And he was like, have you heard that Gary Webb got killed? And, you know, he was recording that conversation as well. And it was a total shock to me. I could not believe it, and I was hurt and I was saddened because Gary was so important to journalism, in my opinion. The way they report the news right now is nothing like what Gary did. You know, Gary, he didn't attach himself, I don't believe, to one side or the other. He only reported or tried to report what he saw in his own mind.
Now, you said when they called you up, they said that he got killed. Now, a lot of people think it might have been a suicide. What do you think?
Well, I find it hard that somebody could shoot themselves in the head twice. You know, I mean, you would think that if you got hit in the head, you would become unconscious or delusional, but to have the wherewithal to first stick the gun to your head, then pull the trigger, and then after the gun go off and you know, it probably jerked down, to have the wherewithal to put it back to your head and pull the trigger again. It's pretty amazing, I believe.
I agree with you there, but a lot of people too, they said that you know, he was depressed. And what is your opinion? In the time you knew him, did you ever see depressed, alcoholism, drugs, anything like that?
No, I didn't see that. The last time I spoke to Gary, he told me he had a new book coming out. He had more evidence, and that he wasn't going to end this until he had the smoking gun.
Okay, so you think now this new evidence in this new book? Do you know whatever happened to all that material? Is it still out there, or did it disappear?
I don't have a clue. I mean, I guess his wife probably would be the one to answer that question. But you know, they had blackballed Gary. No newspaper would hire him, even though he was a Pulitzer Prize winner. Was one of probably the greatest investigative reporters that we ever had. Nobody would give him a job, and the San Jose Mercury News, you know, to get rid of him, they sent him out to a farm and had him writing about horses that couldn't poop. And you know, that really disturbed Gary, I'm sure. I don't know that for a fact because I didn't talk to him about that. I only saw that later on in an article since I've been home from prison.
So from the last time that you saw Gary or you talked to Gary to the time he died, how much time elapsed between the last time you talked to him to the time you found out that he was dead?
Probably about a year.
About a year. Okay. And then what did you? They just came out with a documentary about Gary Webb, right? Refresh my memory. What was it called?
Kill the Messenger.
Kill the Messenger. Right. What did you think of that? Did you see that?
I went and saw it. It gave me some insight on his personal life and his life as a journalist. I enjoyed the movie. I don't know if they got all my stuff right, but I enjoyed the movie, and I wasn't mad with the way they depicted Gary.
You said you weren't mad?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, but you had some problems with the way they depicted you? What were your concerns?
I don't know. They kind of showed me being really naive and overly loud. I'm really a quiet person. I like to think. I like to figure things out. And, you know, they just showed me a little naive.
Okay. And you don't think you were naive in all this?
I was naive to parts of it. But as far as, you know, like when the law coming was a time that, you know, I walked in the courtroom and I felt I was the smartest person in the courtroom.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And now, you say that Gary wasn't feeding you any information back from his investigation, but he was feeding your lawyers questions to ask. Is that when you start getting the whole picture about the Iran-Contra stuff? And I keep saying Iran, but I mean the Contras and the coke smuggling with the Contras and stuff?
Well, we started getting some of it, and my lawyers started piecing it together, you know, about the CIA stuff.
Right.
But we really didn't have it all the way together until we got an anonymous box of mail through the mail from San Francisco.
Okay.
And it wasn't from Gary, it was from somebody else.
And what was in there?
It was a bunch of documents, DEA, FBI, CIA docs that had been redacted, and a lot of stuff had been taken out, names had been blanked out, and stuff like that there.
So were these documents that were obtained through the Freedom of Information Act, or were these inside documents that were stolen?
We don't know. We were never privileged to get those documents. Like I said, they came anonymous through the mail, which is one of the things that we filed a Brady violation, that the government had those documents and never turned them over.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I think that Gary Webb already had those same documents, but we didn't get those documents till after my trial was over.
And how come Gary wasn't helping you with your case, though?
Well, I think that he feared. You know, I had a relationship already with LA Times, and I think that Gary thought that I may leak his story to LA Times.
Still, a guy's facing life in prison, man. You kind of overlook those kinds of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that would have been great to happen. But, you know, what I think Gary was trying to do was to make it better for everybody. Not just me, but all the other people who the government had wrongfully put in prison. He was really upset that this guy had only got 28 months in jail, and and there was other people who had did 2 ounces of coke, and they had 20 years and 30 years in prison.
Oh yeah, I know guys that got 15 years for pot, for just 10 pounds of pot.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's many, especially back in those days. Now the name Celerino. I'm going to ask you about a name, a DEA agent named Celerino Castillo. Are you familiar with that name?
I am.
Oh, you are? Okay. And what can you tell me about him? Because I have an opportunity to interview him about this. How does he fit into all this?
Well, I met Castillo after all this hit the media, and Juanita McDonald and Maxine Waters and the CIA director and the DEA, and everybody comes down to my cell to talk to me. I met Castillo during that time.
The CIA director came to your cell to talk to you?
Yeah, one of their representatives.
Really? And what did you talk about with him?
Well, they thought that I had gave Gary the story. They thought that I knew all about the Contras and all this stuff here. So they were trying to say that I made this story up.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you knew that, but at first, when Gary first did the story, they were saying that it all came out of my mind. And Gary said I had to be one of the smartest guys in the world if I could go back in time and do those documents.
Right. Well, I knew they tried to discredit. I know that Gary Webb was publicly discredited for his work in this investigation, which later on turned out to be proven true. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what about now? Are you doing any work like now, going to the Freedom of Information Act to try and get these documents, to try and research all this, what happened to you?
No, you know what? I said that if they could do that to Gary, what would they do to me?
That's true.
So I pretty much, when I walked out of prison, I got rid of all of my documents and everything that had something to do with that, and I moved on with my life.
Now, what about, do you have any kind of government harassment that you think is specific to this issue, besides just being a black guy in a car with your nephew and you get the usual harassment? Do you think you get any extra harassment?
Nah, I don't think so.
You don't
they
think
don't
so?
even recognize me. They don't recognize me on the street.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's a relief, right?
Yeah. They got new guys now. They got new drug dealers.
New CIA.
So many other things that's going on. And they're kind of easing up on drugs right now.
That's true. Yeah, they're now focused on
the heroin epidemic that they're having right now. They're saying it's a medical problem. What? And I don't think they're doing it just because mostly white kids are getting high on heroin right now. I believe that they learned a lesson from the cocaine era, and they don't want to have 4 million people in prison. We already got 2.2.
Yeah, that's outrageous. But let me ask you a question. Do you think it's a coincidence that, when during your time, we were at war in South America and they were bringing up all this coke into the United States, and now we're in war in the Middle East and they're bringing all this heroin into the United States?
There you go. They're going to call you a conspirator.
Yeah, but they call you naive, okay? Okay, we should hang out more. Okay. Let me ask you a question now.
Putting 2 and 2 together, you.
It's a conspiracy theory. Now,
exactly.
What happened with this character, Rick Ross, who's tried to steal your name? Now, when did this guy pop up? I've heard the name.
Conspiracy theory again. Well, I sued the guy. I lost in court. The court said he can still use my name. We believe that this guy is promoting the sale of drugs in order to have young black males locked up, because a lot of people now, rappers have become the new role models for inner city kids. And for these people to tell them that they got rich, that they driving Rolls Royces and all this stuff and selling drugs, makes the kids in the neighborhood want to sell drugs.
Yeah, that's true. Now, did you hear about, when did he pop up? Because when I heard the name Rick Ross, I thought it was the same Rick Ross. When did he pop up? He was still in prison?
Yeah, he popped up while I was still in prison.
Okay. And
I heard about him around 2005, I guess. couple years before I got out. I got out in 2009. I think the first time I heard him was about 2005, 2006.
Is his music any good?
Who are you asking?
You. I'm asking you. Is his music any good?
You don't ask me a question like that, man. I'm biased.
Well, how about this? What if you would have started putting out some albums using the name Rick Ross? I bet you'd get sued, right?
Yeah, by Universal.
Yeah. Now,
they would come and say, hey, you can't use that name. We spent hundreds of millions of dollars making that name famous. And then I'll be like, well, the name was already famous before you bought it.
Yeah, I think I would have been a good witness for you, because when I heard the name, I thought it was the same guy. I thought Rick Ross, the rapper, was the same as the Rick Ross from prison.
I should have called you in.
Yeah, they should have. Yeah. Okay, well, next time I'll be an expert witness for you. Oh, wait a minute. Someone's telling.
But you know, I'm over that guy. You know, and I wish him best of luck. I'm joking about him right now with you, but it's all fun. And no hard feelings. Hopefully he continues to have success, and you know, and he'll be able to live with, you know, what he's doing right now.
Now wait a second. Someone's telling me in the chat room here that the Rick Ross, the rapper, was he a prison guard?
He was.
Get the hell out of here! He was a correction officer.
He was a correctional officer.
In one of your prisons?
No, not in one of my prisons.
Oh, is it just a coincidence?
Just a coincidence.
Let me ask you this. Now, do you think there's anything I've left out of the story that I've forgotten to ask you?
No, I think you did pretty good. We've been on this line for a minute. No rock unturned.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, I try not to. I try to cover everything. So, what do you want to leave the audience with? I know. You know, what would you say to a kid, you know, who says, "Boy, Rick Ross, man, Freeway Ricky Ross, what a hero, man! Like this guy, you know, I want to do the same thing as him." What would you tell him?
Well, you know, the dedication, determination that I used to build my drug empire, I could use to do anything, and I would have became successful. So if you're thinking about selling drugs, just remember that it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of determination to do what I did, and a big risk too. You know, the risk is enormous. It's no wonder that you know, that I'm still living. You know, I'm just thankful that that I didn't get killed or that I'm not spending the rest of my life in prison. And that could very well happen to anybody who thinks about stepping into the drug business. And there's so many other things that you can do with your life that you can be successful, because if you can sell drugs and make it, you are a brilliant person. And that they should read my book. My book lay it all out for you. I wrote that book when I was in prison with my life sentence, and I didn't know if I would ever be getting out again. And it was a way for me to reach back to the world and give them a piece of my life. I tried to write that book as if I caught you by the hand and pulled you in my car and told you, come on, take a ride with me. And you rode around L.A. with me for a couple weeks. That's what my book is about.
Yeah, and if you look on the reviews on Amazon.com, every single one, it talks about how what a quick read it is. It's such a great book. Everybody loves it. So there's no doubt about that. It's called The Freeway Rick Ross, Untold Autobiography. Kathy Scott and Rick Ross wrote it together. Now what about...
I got to get Kathy a shout out, because she took all of my scrabble on all colored papers, and sometimes my ink pens wasn't writing right. I was in the hole, and she took all that garbage and pieced it together, because I didn't know where to start or where to end. I just started writing down everything I could remember. I said, you know what? People need to know how you was thinking, what you was thinking about. And I put it on that paper, and Kathy Scott took that paper and she turned it into this masterpiece, man. And I'm just thankful that she kept my voice, you know, because some people would have took your voice. But Kathy was able to capture my voice, and when it was something that she didn't understand, she would call me at 3 a.m. and say, hey, Rick, I'm here in this page. And I'd be like, Kathy, you know what time of morning it is? And she got it right. I really feel that she got it right. And I'm really excited about the book, and I'm going to sell 1 million copies, you know. So tell everybody to get one. If they order it, off my website. I'll autograph it for them and also put their name in it, however they want it autographed.
Yeah, the last time I had Kathy on the show is when I realized that she wrote the book with you. And I says, hey, can you talk to him? And she said, well, just call him up right now. She wanted me to call you in the middle of the night. So,
well, I called her at 5 in the morning, so we get each other back.
Okay, there you go. Okay, and when you work out a deal like that with an author, what's the cut? A 50-50 kind of deal, or one of you gets more? How does that work?
Kathy, you work for hire.
Oh, so you paid her off and then it's done. You keep the money from now on.
Yep.
Okay.
I still owe her money, but she's a work for hire.
Okay.
She did me a favor. Kathy did me a favor.
Well, to get your name attached to, this is a historic, you're a historic figure, you know what I mean? You're an iconic figure. So get your name attached.
And we really don't be that historic figure when I sell 1 million copies independently.
And you're saying you're working now on a movie or a documentary?
We did the documentary already, Freeway Cracking the System. It was nominated for an Emmy. I'm working on a motion picture right now with Reginald Hutton. And I'm also working on a mini-series.
You got any
So at Liongate.
Do you have any appearances coming up?
I do, but I don't know where I'm going. I think I'm going to be going to Fayetteville State University. That's the next college that I'm going to. But I'm open. I need some gigs. Anybody out there, y'all want to hire me, hit me up on my website. I'm open.
Freeway,
I need to work.
FreewayRickyRoss.com. And one more last question now. Now, you made a lot of money, and you lived, listen, once you make that kind of money, you know what I mean? You've done that, Would you give all that up not to have to do that time in prison? You know what I mean?
Let me say this here. I love my time in prison.
Okay.
I had a ball while I was in prison. I taught myself how to read. I really learned myself while I was in prison. I read over 300 books, and I wouldn't be who I am today had I not went to prison. So I wouldn't change anything in my life. When I was doing the time in prison, it was tough, hard, but now when I look back at it, it molded me for the things that I'm able to do right now today.
And what about, now, were you the kind of drug dealer that you used drugs too, or socially, or
I didn't use drugs.
Nothing.
You can't make money selling drugs using drugs. It don't work.
Okay, what about drinking and smoking pot?
I don't drink. I did smoke pot when I was selling drugs. But I quit smoking pot because I was smoking too much pot.
Yeah.
I had a $40,000 a week pot habit.
Yeah, me too. I quit the pot. I smoked a ton of pot. I quit that. No, we're the same age. You know what I mean? You got to leave that stuff to the kids. Now,
hey, who ain't tried pot? I mean, even Clinton, he sucked on the joint. He didn't inhale.
Yeah, I don't think he inhaled. He wouldn't lie to us, would he? No,
no, but he wouldn't.
Of course not. Hey, what about which?
And he didn't have sex with that woman.
Of course not. Who are you endorsing in the presidential election?
This is going to be my first time voting. I'm going to vote for Hillary.
Really? Okay. Now, so did you like in the primary? Did you like Bernie better or Hillary?
I like Bernie. I thought she should have picked Bernie as a running mate, and this race would be over.
Yeah.
But she didn't. But when I look at the two, her and Donald, I don't think Donald's stable. He's not realistic. Hillary, she's been sheltered too, but at least, she has been on the street a few times.
Yeah, Hillary's a criminal. Hillary's a criminal too. So you got along with her better. I get it. I understand. Let me ask you a question. Do you have any kind of parole left over, or you all done?
Parole. I'm off parole.
For how long you been off parole?
I've been off parole about a year and 2 or 3 months.
That feels good, right?
I'm going into the cannabis industry too.
What was that?
I'm going into the cannabis industry too.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Now, can you do that? Because you have felony convictions, right?
Yeah, with certain things you can do, like you could grow. I can have product named after me. Oh. I can endorse products, things like that there.
Oh, you know what? I never thought of that. Because I had George...
So I'm itching to get my hand in this industry.
There's a ton of money there right now. You see these kids, these are stupid kids too, making a ton of money in this pop business right now.
man. They say California is going to be like $16 billion next year.
Well, yeah, Vegas too.
Go wreck. Yeah, we're going to wreck next year. Next year we're going to go wreck like Colorado, and every kid in the school is going to have a brand new computer.
Yeah, they're going to legalize it here for recreational too here in November in Vegas. So this is going to be a big market here. And maybe we can work something out, man. We'll come up with a plan. You know what I mean? I was. Oh, now you say you can vote. Now you got your civil liberties restored.
Well, I can't carry a gun, but I can vote.
Did you went back to the judge and you fought?
I like guns.
What was that?
I don't really like guns.
Yeah, I don't like guns either. But now you went back to the judge and you got your civil liberties restored?
No, you don't have to. In California, once you're off parole, then you're allowed to vote.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Okay, because most states, when you got a felony, you can't vote for the rest of your life. You know?
Yeah. There are some states like that, but California's not one.
Okay. All right. So anything else you think you want to tell the audience?
Well, just tell them I said go to my website, get my book, get my T-shirt. If you buy the T-shirt and the book at the same time, I'll give you a discount. Thank y'all for having me on the show, and I'm out.
No, thank you, Rick, man. It was a lot of fun. Okay, anything comes up in the future you want to promote, give me a call. I'll put you right on the air.
All right, great.
Thank you so much.
You didn't want me to go.
I wouldn't let you go, man. Okay. So there we go. There was a Freeway Rick Ross, the Untold Autobiography, and his website is freewayrickyross.com. In order to buy his book and stuff like self-published book. I don't know, man. I just like guys like that. I don't know. Maybe it's my life story too, but I just get along with guys like that. Okay, so we were a little concerned that we couldn't fill the 2 hours with good old Rick Ross, and so I didn't prepare too many notes, but we're not going to have a bunch of dead air. So we'll fill the next 33 minutes with the announcements. Coming up on Tuesday, I'm going to be on, Pierce Redmond on American Freedom Radio here. Pierce Redmond, it's on Tuesday in the afternoons at either 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, around that time. You can go to AmericanFreedomRadio.com, look on the schedule. It's called Porkins Policy, and we're going to be talking about the O.J. Simpson case. And one thing we're going to be talking about is one of our listeners sent me a video this week who, has a video of O.J. Simpson being interviewed where he talks about Bill Clinton calling him up on his cell phone, asking about Anna Nicole Smith and what was Anna Nicole Smith like. And O.J. tells him, "Oh, she's fat. She's big as fat as a house." And Bill's going, "Oh, really? Oh, I'm so disappointed." So that's kind of fascinating in some kind of weird way. That Bill Clinton, first of all, that Bill Clinton has O.J. Simpson's cell phone number. Okay, that's one, and two, that he'd be asking about Anna Nicole Smith and asking O.J. to hook him up with Anna Nicole Smith. So I found that very interesting. It goes to show the kind of relationship that O.J. and Bill Clinton had, because, they did play golf together shortly before the murders. And I've always had a suspicion that they were discussing, Anthony Pellicano came up in that conversation, because as you know, there's all this stuff you see on MSNBC now. They're talking about should Trump call out Clinton on her husband's indiscretions and his they call it indiscretion when actually there were rapes involved, and sexual harassment and sexual harassment of state employees, Paula Jones, and all this stuff, and his perjury conviction. So they say, oh, his indiscretions. Oh, and she called him out of that, and she forgave him. They got their married. But Hillary, and it's in a congressional documents. I just read it the other day that Hillary hired Pellicano to go after Monica and Jennifer Flowers. Okay, we wait a second. We know for a 100% absolute fact that Hillary's the one who hired Pellicano to review, because he was pitching himself as some kind of an audio engineer expert, like a forensic audio expert. What do you call it? And he's the one who looked at Jennifer Flowers' audio tapes of her conversations with Bill Clinton where they were talking about their affair. And he said, well, there's portions that were edited and in his official report. But that was looked at by many, many people, and no one came to that same conclusion. So we know for an absolute fact that Hillary and Bill hired Pelicano to go after Jennifer Flowers. We know that Pelicano has admitted that he was hired to go after Monica Lewinsky, and that he's the one who found that boyfriend, Monica Lewinsky's boyfriend, wherever state she came from, I forget, I think it was Colorado or something like that, who made the comment about, she was going to Washington to get her presidential knee pads. It was well known that Pelicano was the one who found that guy. And then, officially, we don't know that he was hired to go after Kathleen Willey. But when you hear about the things that happened to her cats dying, telephone threats, harassment, her tires being slashed, these are the same crimes that Pelicano has long been accused of. And you got to remember, Anthony Pelicano, Bill and Hillary's PI that they hired, is in prison today for possessing C4 explosives, and he had a hand grenade as well, and had illegal wiretapping. And his own employees who were involved in doing these baseball bat beatings and slashing tires and killing pets and cats and leaving dead animals on people's car hoods and dead fish and all that kind of stuff like that. People testified to doing these things on behalf of Pelicano as his agent. So none of that's a mystery or made-up stuff. So when you see these things on MSNBC, and when they call Bill Clinton, his indiscretions, blah, 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 and Hillary had nothing to do with that, and Hillary had everything to do with that. They were harassing these witnesses. They were stalking these witnesses. They were threatening these witnesses, and they were intimidating these witnesses using guys like Pelicano. And you can listen to the shows I did with Kathleen Willey and the show I did with Sally Miller, Okay. The other thing is, later on this evening, okay. By the way, I taped a little segment this morning with Four Arrows, I think his name is, Four Arrows, who wrote the book about the assassination of Paul Wellstone, the Senator Paul Wellstone from, I believe, Minnesota. Died in a plane crash. So we were going to do a whole 2-hour show. We had a plan. I was going to tape it either for the member section or whatever. We don't know. And instead, he found out at the last minute he was going to head over to Standing Rock, North Dakota, and join the protests and the prayer vigils over there going on with the Standing Rock Sioux. So he was in Mexico, and we got on the phone, and he was driving to the airport. We didn't have time to do the whole episode. So we just taped a short segment today as kind of a heads up for what's coming up, and also to announce his involvement with Standing Rock Sioux. Got a call today from Cynthia McKinney. I don't know if you're aware of the story. No, they don't use the word infidelities. They use the word indiscretions and stuff like that. You don't even hear them say infidelity with Bill Clinton. But I got a call from Cynthia McKinney today, and I'm going to be taping with her tonight. Right after the show, we're going to have William Ramsey's going to come on and do a segment. He has a very interesting segment. I forget the name of his guest, but it's a very interesting segment, and it's on most of the stations that carry the show right now. But I got a call from Cynthia McKinney, and I'm going to be taping with her tonight at least an hour. You might recall that. Oh, man, I wanted to ask Freeway Rick Ross about something else here. Okay, didn't get to it. But Howard Dean, who is a paid correspondent, paid contributor for MSNBC, and he's a former head of the DNC, and ran for president, and he's a very popular presidential candidate. He's the one that started off that whole thing with the small donations. But the big thing is he had to disband his presidential campaign for you youngsters out there that weren't paying attention, because he was making a speech, and at the end of his speech he went, "Woo!" Okay. He says, "We're going on to North Carolina, then we're going to D.C., then we're going to Florida, we're going to win them all. Woo!" And they played that over and over and over again, and they said, "Well, Howard Dean's a crazy man. He's a lunatic. He's a wild man. He's not fit to be president." And I was like, what, 12 years ago? And now we got Donald Trump. You know, it's totally out of his mind, 24 hours a day. No one says, no even bats an eye, Okay. Hey, I love what I told Freeway Ricky Ross, that both he and Clinton were criminals. You gotta love it, man. You gotta love it. But Howard Dean comes out and he says, "Well, I think Donald Trump might have been snorting coke the night of the election." Now, I don't agree with that. I don't think Trump uses coke. Now, Trump might have used coke in the 80s when he was hanging out with Roy Cohen and Steve Rubell, Studio 54, and that kind of stuff like that. But I don't believe he's using coke now. And people say, "Well, what's he doing up at 3 a.m., 3 in the morning?" He can't be up at 3 in the morning using coke, because if he was, then if you use coke to stay up all night, then you crash when you stop using the coke. He's not using coke 24 hours a day, obviously. He'd look like John Belushi or Richard Pryor. You can't do that. So I don't think he's on coke. But Howard Dean made this crack about Trump being on coke. I do believe, by the way, that because they mentioned Trump's testosterone levels, and when he was on Dr. Oz, he has to be getting testosterone treatments to have levels that high. I'm practically an expert on this kind of stuff. Okay, he's got to be getting some kind of testosterone, which is not in his medical record that he's saying. He's admitting that he gets testosterone treatments, that he's prescribed testosterone. But for his testosterone levels to be that high at that age, he has to be on it. And they all do take stuff. There's something called the cocktail that I've heard of. I spoke about it before, where it's a little cocktail of a little bit of testosterone, a little bit of steroid, a little bit of another drug called Provigil, okay, which is a drug that helps you concentrate and stay focused, and Adderall, a little bit of Adderall. I'm positive that Marco Rubio was on Adderall, because when that debate where he kept repeating the same thing over and over again, that's a typical Adderall, move. You see that all the time with these kids that are on Adderall. Kids, I mean college-age kids that are too old to be little kids taking Adderall. But enough of that, though, okay? Enough of our drug talk, okay? Back to Howard Dean. So Howard Dean makes this crack that Donald Trump was snorting coke, and that's why he was sniffing, that's why he's up at 3 in the morning, all kind of stuff like that. So this columnist writes this column. Let me see if I could find this jerk. Where do you hear this, man? You're gonna have to find the actual. The guy's name is Jonathan Bernstein. JONATHAN BERNSTEIN. Jonathan Bernstein. And just Google that name, Jonathan Bernstein, and Cynthia McKinney. And he writes this article in the past 24 hours where he says, the article will come right up, where he says, well, the DNC should immediately get rid of Howard Dean for making such irresponsible comments and accusations about Donald Trump. After all, they dumped Cynthia McKinney for peddling conspiracy theories. Okay, and that was his only line about Cynthia McKinney. But what an insult, man! What an insulting comment to make about Cynthia McKinney, who's done so much for this country, peddling conspiracy theories. That she was booted by the DNC for peddling conspiracy theories. So she put out this big press release today, and I have her book tonight. She's coming on tonight, where she goes into all these different points here about how she was involved. She pegged. She was part of that investigation that busted what went on down there in Florida. I've described to you before about how this database company called IRB teamed up with another company called Choice Point. These are database companies that PIs use to look up people's criminal records and social security numbers and addresses and all that kind of stuff. And these two big companies, IRB and Choice Point, did a merger, and they formed another company called IRT or something like that, TRB, some stupid name like that. And everybody heard about this, and we says, oh, boy, this is probably a great company. How do we sign up with it? And so many people were talking about it and gossiping about it that they put out a press release saying, no. This is just a temporary little gig we're doing here together as part of Florida. I don't think they mentioned Florida, but this is just a temporary company that they set up together for special projects or whatever. And what they did was they took all the criminal records in Florida, okay? And let's say your name was John Thomas Smith, right? And your name was John Thomas Smith, but a guy named Thomas John Smith or Thomas Joe Smith had a criminal record. They took every combination of J.T. Smith or T.J. Smith, okay, every possible combination of people who had criminal records, felony records that would disqualify them from voting in Florida, and they made this database where it was all confused, where just about anybody, okay, who had any kind of close possibility of their name having a felony conviction would be disqualified from voting as a Democrat. And that's how they stole the Florida election. And Cynthia McKinney, coincidentally, because I knew the people involved, coincidentally was the one who had these congressional hearings that looked into that and uncovered all that. In fact, we'll be talking about that tonight. So Cynthia McKinney's done some incredible work, man. She opposed the Iraq War. She exposed September 11th. Was part of Victims' Compensation Board. She came out that we weren't justified in attacking Iraq. And she was way ahead of her time. She went after Michael Chertoff and Homeland Security when the people at Katrina were drowning over there. So, listen. Cynthia McKinney is an American hero, and this character what's his name here? Bernstein. Remember the Bernstein Bears? Jonathan Bernstein. Yeah, so keep an eye out on him, man. We should send him some nasty messages. Go after him. Okay. So that's Cynthia McKinney tonight. I'll be taping with, and we'll probably play that Friday night coming up. Okay. And I don't know if Sean updated the member section yet or not. As you know, last night I did a rant about the member section, and everybody drove me nuts about it. So one more time, just to remind you how that works, okay, is that I record the shows on Spreaker, the shows that go into the member section. They're recorded during the week, usually around 11 o'clock in the afternoon, okay? And I record them using Spreaker. And sometimes I forget. There's a little option with Spreaker where you can either broadcast live, like we're doing now, or we record the show. Okay, and sometimes I even forget. And around 11 o'clock, you'll get a live show by mistake. You'll hear it be broadcasting live. And people will come to the chat room and say, boy, I didn't know there was a show today. What's going on? Okay. Now, there's an option when you record the show with Spreaker where you can upload it immediately to iHeartRadio and to YouTube and to SoundCloud and a lot of different places. So I'll uncheck all of those, but I'll leave YouTube checked. So a lot of times when I record a show, and I don't know if I'm going to use that show on Friday night or Saturday night, I don't know if I'm going to put it in the member section, or I don't know if it's going to be a show that I'm just going to give away during the week, an extra show, like I did today about the Paul Wellstone. You got extra content for free. Or we did the show, the debate watch party that we did Monday night. Okay? These extra shows that we do that I'm not obligated to do. Okay? I got to show up for work on Friday night. I got to show up for work on Saturday night. And I got to provide you at least, I promise from the start, at least 3 shows a month for the member section, which I've consistently done way more than that. Okay? Now, every now and then, when the show goes up on YouTube, what I'll usually do is I'll mark it private, okay? But since this week we're waiting for the shows to get up in the member section, I put a couple of them up there that people could buy them, okay? and everyone has a heart attack, okay, and starts screaming and crying. How come, I'm a member, how come it's for sale? Just be patient. They're going in the member section. Otherwise, some of these shows went, we played one last night that was in the for $1.99 on YouTube. So anyway, I know it's not updated. I know it's not. Listen, Sean works for free. I'm not running a slave farm here where people are, are slaves, Okay? Sean's going to update it. Don't worry. My God. In one of these shows that I taped this week that everyone's all excited about, that you could find on YouTube, not in the member section yet, but it will be. And you know what? It'll probably go in the member section and then go live on a Friday night because it's a really important show that needs a lot of exposure. And shows that will go first in the member section, then go later on live, get the most, because people see them in the member section, they want to hear it real bad. So you can kind of promote them that way too. But there's a show I did this week with Steve Smith. The name of his book is The Psychopath Machine, A Story of Resistance and Survival. And this is a guy who was a hippie in Canada, and he was a kid. He got busted for stealing a car, and he popped some LSD. He didn't want to get busted for the LSD, so he swallowed it, and he looked like he was acting crazy, so they threw him in a mental institution for 8 months. Now, this show is available on YouTube for $1.99. It'll be in the member section shortly, by Monday for sure. Okay, but probably today. Okay. Okay. So what do you call it? Turns out the mental institution they throw him into there is like an MK Ultra experiment torture chamber where they're drugging them, they're giving them methamphetamine, they're giving them LSD treatments, like wild doses of LSD. And a couple of people in there were actually later on became mercenaries, and hired killers. They went to work for the Israeli army. They went to work in Rhodesia as mercenaries. And another guy was a serial killer. So, but one of the things that came out in this interview that I forgot to mention the other day was that this doctor, I think his name was Dr. Barker, and he had these serial killers living on his farm. Somehow he got these guys released from these homicidal maniacs who had committed murder, released from their mental institution where they were being tortured and all kinds of experiments done on there. He got them released to live on his farm with him. Okay? His 200-acre farm. And then they would go off to Rhodesia and be mercenaries. Well, by itself is a freaking amazing story. But what came up in our discussion is that today, this Dr. Barker, who's still alive, is part of an organization called the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. And there's two of them. There's an international version, and there's a local Canadian version, or an American version. I forget what it was. You can listen to it in the show, or you can get the book. The book is called, one more time, Steve Smith is the author, The Psychopath Machine, A Story of Resistance and Survival. And his website's going to be thepsychopathmachine.com. He said that it was Dr. Barker's theory that to create these psychopaths and these homicidal murders, it had to be done while they were in childhood. You couldn't take an adult and do it, because this guy Steve Smith, when they grabbed him, he was like 20 years old. But they couldn't do this brainwashing, mind-control thing to him, that it had to be done to children. And now this guy's working for an organization called the Center for Prevention of Cruelty to Children. An odd coincidence, right? Even odder coincidence. There's another group called the International Center for Prevention of Cruelty to Children. It's in the show. I don't know. That's not the exact quote. And the international organization, that has a very similar name. We don't know if they're connected or not. There's a picture on the website of Jimmy Savile and Margaret Thatcher, I think it was, presenting a check to this organization. Jimmy Savile's there on the property of this Prevention to Cruelty to Children property. Jimmy Savile is involved in this. Okay? Now that's breaking. That's groundbreaking news, man, my friends. You're not hearing anywhere else. So that will be in the members section shortly, coming up. So anyway, that show was. We just did that this week too, and then I did a show with Liddy Daniere, who was Jane in the Tarzan and Jane TV series, and it turns out that she was the fiancée of Ambassador Stevens at Benghazi. Working on I have 30 minutes to fill on that show, so we're working on that to come up with another little segment to add another little bit Benghazi expert to kind of fill it out and make that a 2-hour show that maybe we'll play on Friday night, but otherwise it'll be going into the members section shortly. And then I just taped yesterday with Mike Rothmiller, who is going to be coming back again too after he finishes his book on Marilyn Monroe. So I taped with him a nice little segment. Now, who just messaged me here? One more thing we're working on too. This is going to be fun. Remember Tom Secker? Oh, Tom. Okay, we're trying to work on a debate, a debate format between Tom Secker and Ted Rubenstein, because they're arguing and fighting behind the scenes about whether JFK was a good guy or a bad guy. I don't know. They're both upset with each other and they're not getting along. And so I'm offering them this space to have a public debate and air out their grievances with each other. And who knows, maybe because, Rick Ross says that he wants to promote fights and stuff, maybe we can promote a cage match between Tom Secker and Ted Rubenstein. Okay. I think I've hit a wall. I think I've hit a wall here of things to talk about. I've got another good 4 or 5 minutes to fill. Coming up next week, we got a show. In fact, it's not next week. It's the week after. We had a double booking today about that show about Making of a Murderer. So we have a guest coming on who's going to decode all that. He wrote a book, step by step, of why he feels that guy Avery really is guilty. Even though they just did, I think he deserves a new trial too as well. But I don't think he's not guilty. I don't think he was set up. And I should be live here. What's going on here? Let me check this over here. So those are pretty much all the shows we have coming up. After this, William Ramsey has a really good show tonight, so stay tuned for that one. Shows coming up and coming back. Oh, okay. I am officially endorsing Jill Stein from the Green Party for president. In fact, I'm even going to be putting out a press release on this, and they said they're going to put me on the website, the Green Party website for Nevada. People are endorsing Jill Stein. Syndicated radio host that Opperman endorsed Jill Stein. And the reason why, and I don't know why people will I get these crazy messages from these crazy listeners saying that I support Hillary for president. I guess they only listen to the Trump stories and the Trump comments and stuff like that, and they think I'm supporting Hillary. But I'm not at all. I'm endorsing Jill Stein, which pretty much is a vote for Trump, because it's especially here in Nevada, because it's either going to go to Trump or Hillary, and Hillary's lost the Democratic support here, well, the Bernie supporters. They just had a Central Committee meeting here over the weekend, and the room was like empty. Hardly anybody showed up. Even the Hillary supporters are sick and tired of what went on here and all the drama, and that's going on in the Democratic Party. So I think even the people that are Hillary supporters and these Democratic hacks are sick of all the drama and people showing up, people like Joe Sacco showing up down there and making protests and people handcuffing themselves to chairs. I think everyone's tired of it here and tired of fighting here in Nevada, and the Democratic Party is pretty much falling apart. I predicted on Facebook, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that I believe that Donald Trump is going to wind up in prison. He's going to wind up his life in prison, and I'm not saying that he deserves to be in prison any more than Hillary deserves to be in prison. I think they both deserve to be in prison, obviously. And when I predicted that Trump was going to wind up in prison, everybody says, well, don't you think Hillary should be in prison too? They should both be in prison. Blah, 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 blah. I do believe they should, but I don't think that the Clintons are ever going to be in prison, okay? Not unless there's a major change going on here. Trump right now is under so much scrutiny that there is no way he will survive it. I promise you this. There is no way Trump will survive this. They're digging up too much stuff. The guy plays too fast and loose for too many years. I know for a fact there's pictures out there floating around. And what do you call it? And the stuff would go to Cuba. The stuff with there's no his Trump Foundation isn't even licensed to be a charity in New York State. It's not filed on it. His taxes. There's way too much scrutiny on this guy right now. There is no way he's going to survive it. They're going to ultimately come up with something on him, and they're going to convict this guy. He's going to wind up in prison. Oh, thank you so much. Good night, American Freedom Radio. Okay, so we only got a couple minutes left. Thank God for that. So I am convinced that Trump is going to wind up in prison. I also think that, by the way, too, that Michael Lohan is going to wind up dying in prison too. I think he's going to wind up in prison too as well, probably for killing his girlfriend / wife, and all that's going on with them. If you ever follow that drama going on with that bunch. A little update for you on the Trump rape lawsuit. That's what do you call it? It was just refiled in New York State. And this, by the way, guys, this is big, big, big news. They found another witness. There's another witness to these rape charges. A lifelong friend of the victim who was told about this when they were teenagers. When this was going on, when this girl was raped by Trump and Epstein, she told her friend, and they talked about it for years and years and years. So now there's a statement too from the friend. Also, too, you'll never believe who joined this lawsuit. I forget the guy's name. One of who's that woman that everybody hates? Not Jody Arias, the other one, Top Mom. Top Mom. Who is Top Mom? Look in the chat room quick. Who is Top Mom? The one who got off by Baez. Baez got off Top Mom. Leon Cheney. I'm drawing a blank on this. What was Top Mom's name down there? We got a not Gloria. No, not Gloria. Okay, Top Mom down in Florida, who was accused, Casey Anthony. Now, who was Casey Anthony's lawyers? One was Baez. The other guy, Cheney, just came onto this case suing Trump. Do you guys realize this? Let me find his